We've had somewhat of a saga for Labor after the 149 detainees were released following that High Court decision. Now it's also showing up in I'm calling this a letter fight. And I'm going to let Andrew Clennell explain the rest of it. These pop up, don't they?
It's hard to explain because there's so many letters that I got here from
it's very
government to
complicated.
opposition.
I couldn't understand what's happening.
Whoever's writing these letters, I really have to hand it to you. You're doing a good job. I mean, basically, we're saying, let me summarise it in layman's terms, Tom.
We like
You're
that.
saying, the government's saying, we'll give you a briefing, but you have to be at a certain time. The opposition says, get stuffed, we can't be there. The government says, get stuffed, you should be there. And the opposition says, get stuffed, you're not even briefing us about what we want to be briefed about. That pretty much sums it up.
And they give them all to you. So you're the
Well, that's good. I get to tell everyone the news about like I'm... I'm the letter war correspondent.
You get your 20,000 steps up doing this, going between the offices.
Can you guys just get together and have a briefing and sort it all out?
The letters.
Look, I've got to say, Clare O'Neill and Andrew Giles, you're going to brief the journos. You may as well brief the opposition the same thing about this court case next month. We can find out how many people will be released. I mean, it does look pretty kind of childish, to be honest with you. Look, I first asked Micaiah Cash about this issue, the December briefing. She and Dan Tehan, the immigration spokesman, didn't attend on Sunday agenda, this December briefing, and it's blown up and mushroomed from here, and they can't agree on a briefing, or the opposition wants to be briefed on more things than the government wants. Have a listen.
They offered us a briefing on AGS advice
but
that
why
they
didn't you
had specifically
fair
drafted.
Enough, but why didn't you take it up?
For the purposes, we said that we would. I wrote back and said, yes, we would. And then do you know what happened? The Attorney General made it almost impossible for Mr Tehan and I to undertake the briefing. They required Mr Tehan to undertake a 7-hour round trip to sit in a room, and guess what? Neither of us could even speak about the advice once we'd seen it.
Joining us now is Liberal MP Aaron Violi. Maybe you could do the briefing and let Micaiah and Dan Tehan, as he's being called there, know what happened. I mean, is it that hard for the opposition and the government to find a meeting time here? It's a bit farcical, isn't it?
It's a little bit disappointing from the government. I caught Andrew's quick summary of it. I mean, picking selective times, it actually shows one of the issues we have with this government, in Home Affairs in particular, focused on this briefing and the minutiae of this. Do your job properly. Keep Australians safe. Put the detainees that should be in detention. I mean, if the minister had attended those 3 meetings last year, we might not have this issue. This is a snowball effect of the minister being incompetent and not doing his job last year, and it shows that they're playing politics and trying to spin. It's not about the opposition, it's about the government, and they've got to remember that they're in government, they're not in opposition, even though they did spend 9 years there, they're quite used to it.
So what's interesting about this is the opposition sort of said this is hopeless from the government. The government said we're sort of, shackled by the rule of law. Do you need to wait until the briefings happen to be sure about that? Because couldn't you hear in there, oh yeah, okay, that's why this is the limitation, this is the legal decision, this is the ramification of a High Court decision, that you might go, oh, Labor's right on this?
But I think if we look back at last year in December and the pressure that the opposition brought to bear to make the government act, that's why we can't wait. Because if we wait for this government, nothing will happen. Our responsibility is to hold them to account, to put public pressure on them so they act, and we saw that happen last year. And this government has said could have found the time to do the briefing, but if they're not going to do that, we're going to hold them to account, call them out, and ultimately, like we did in December, essentially have to write the legislation for them from opposition.